Hello everyone, this is a tutorial on Java Reflection, and today we'll be actually going through some reflection basics and we'll go through some programs that will actually demonstrate reflection. So the basic question that comes first is what is reflection? Reflection is nothing but a mechanism to access or process a properties or the fields or methods, as you can say, of a class from its object at runtime. So this is kind of a long thing to say in a one sentence, but the important part is you have an object and you want the information of that particular class from that particular object. So for example, there might be some situation where you don't know what the class is, and you want to invoke all its methods in a loop. There can be this kind of situations. I mean, for example, if you don't know about the class, and in the client asks you to actually go through all the methods of that particular class, but the main point is you don't know the class. So in this kind of situations, reflection helps. So today we'll be going through some code that will actually help us to demonstrate reflection. The first class, as you can see on the screen, is the test reflection class. This is the class that we will be using for a reflection sample. So what this class is, this is the class name is test reflection. We have two variables. One is test private string variable, that is a private string variable, and another we have a public string variable. Both are initialized as null. Then we have a constructor of that class. That constructors take a string, and inside that constructor we are actually initializing this to instance variables, that are the string instance variables. We are initializing the public variable with a sample string, and we are initializing the private variable with the value that we pass through the constructor, or the constructor argument, as you can say. Next we have a setter method for the public string value. This will actually set the public string instance value as the argument. Then we have a sample method, that is just a sample method of, but the important part is this is private, and we are just printing something inside the private method. And again we have another sample method, that is public, and that is nothing but a sample demonstrating method that is also printing a sample text. So we will be using reflection to go through the class and getting information from its object. So for the same, I have actually created another class. That class name is reflect members. Now this is the second class. So where here we have a main class, main method, inside which we are using the test reflection class to demonstrate the reflection. So first of all, what we are doing is test reflection. We are creating an object of test reflection, and we are passing the value as test reflection value. Sorry, I have a typo over here. So this is the object of test reflection class, and the first example that we are going to see over here is to access the public fields, public string field that we have created in the test reflection. So now in the class, if you remember, we have a public string variable, that is test public string. So the first example is to get the value of that particular variable. So now what we have to do is to for reflection, the basic thing is, first we have to get its field, or the particular field that we want to access, using its name. be it a variable, be it a method, be it any other property, we need to get the variable as a reflection field. As you can see, we are creating a field. We have to import a particular class, that is java.lang.reflect.field. This field will basically hold a field member, and we have to get the field member using its name. So now, to get the public string field member, what we have to do is we have to get the class. We have the object of test reflection class. Dot get class will give us the class instance, and we have a method after that, that is get declared method, and get declared fields for this instance, and we have to pass the field name for that of that particular field. This should be exactly the field name, same as in the test reflection class. So now when you do that, we actually get the field test public string field inside this reflect field. So here we can actually now we can actually check what the value is coming for the public string variable using reflection. Let's run it once. Now see, the value that is coming over here is test public string. The reason is we are actually initializing the test public string value as test public string in the constructor. So when we are basically creating an object for this particular test reflection class, we are having the value of the test public string is setting in the class constructor. So uh, so when we are printing the same using reflection, we are getting the same value. So the next important thing is how to how to access and then invoke a public method. So this is the part for the same. Let me uncomment it. Now what we are doing here, like for a field we are using a field class, but now we need a method. As we are actually want to access a method class, we need to basically use method class of reflect package. So now we have a test reflection object over here, and for using the, like, we have got the instance variable field, we are using get declared field method. Now here also we need to use the get declared method of the class instance. So the process is exactly the same, just the method name has a slight difference. The name of it is get declared method, and we have to pass the method name exactly the same as it is in the test reflection method. As you can see, the method name is this. And the important part over here, so we have to pass the reflection test reflection method name over here, that one we want to access. Along with that, we have to pass the argument class also. So here what we are doing is we are getting the method with the method name, along with that the argument class. If you remember, we have a string argument in this method, so we have to pass that argument class too. So in the public set test string method, variable got the method. If the name is correct, it should return the method instance of that particular method. And if we want to invoke the same, what we need to do is just get the method object and use its invoke method. If we use its invoke method, so it's just the method object dot invoke, and we have to pass the test reflection object, as we need to need all the class informations in it, test reflection object, along with that the argument value. So what it is doing is it is actually invoking this particular method, and by passing the argument value. So before running the example, I want to show what it actually does. When we actually call set test public string method in the test reflection class, it what it does is it initializes test public string with the string passed. So the test public string value should be changed, as it was earlier the test public string in constructor, so it should be now overridden by the new method value, new argument. So what we are passing over here is the public sample test string, and this should actually be set with the public string sample. So now we have to follow the same process to get the field value now. So let's have the field value with the field name and check for is it actually invoking it properly or not. See, first value, initially when we created the object, the constructor is setting the value as test public string. Now we are invoking that set method and the value is set as public sample test. So this is the two most important thing of reflection of like accessing fields and accessing methods. Now reflection is not all about that. I mean, we can also access private fields and private methods. So let's take an example. Now this is the code that is actually needed to get a access a private variable. This is exactly the same as we are doing with the private public variables, but here the trick is we just need to add a set accessible true with for that particular field. Like test private string is a instance string variable, and it is private. As you can see in the test reflection class, we have a test private string and initialized as null, and in the constructor we are initializing the string with the constructor argument. So the same thing as we are doing for the public members, we have to do for the private members. We have to get the private members using its name, and the process is exactly the same. We have to use the class object dot get declared field and have to pass the field name. Now for private member, the trick is we have to use private member field dot set accessible true. This is actually doing the trick and making the private fields accessible using the reflection. So now we can check what the value is actually coming, and if you what it should actually come, let's check. For the private members, it is initialized as null, and when we actually calling the constructor, it is defining the value or setting the value of the private string as this, as the constructor argument. So the constructor argument is reflection sample. So now we can check whether it is actually doing the same, or and the value of the private string in the test reflection class should be the reflection sample, as it is the constructor argument. So let's check it is working or not. See, the private string value is the reflection sample. So we are successful in actually getting the private getting the value of a private member outside the class. So this is good. Now not only that, we can also access the private methods. If you remember, we have a private method called say hello in test reflection class. What it does is just print a value of the private string and a hello concatenated before that. So now for the exactly we were using the code that was used for getting or invoking public method is exactly the same as we are using for private method, but the same trick like the private members, we have to use the set accessible true, and the different code is exactly the same. The basic code over here is the class object dot get declared method, and you have to pass the name as above, and along with that, here we don't have any argument, so we will be passing null in for that, and for the same thing should be used to invoke the invoke method of that particular method instance, reflect method instance, and the object should be passed. So let's check it. See, it's executing properly the private method. So what reflection enables us is to, the basic thing is to access the private members outside the class. We can do that using reflection, but for some Java developers or from some organization, this is a security breach, security threat. But we have a solution for that. There is something called system manager or security manager in Java, which actually defines the security of a particular Java application. And we can do that using our own Java policy file, or we can actually try to override our Java policy file in the JRE. So what is important is, if you don't want our class to be a reflection enabled, or we don't want our class to be reflected by other class, what we can do is to set the security manager in the class. Let's check it once. But the basic thing is Java reflection of private members are by default not allowed using Java policy. So we can actually use the default Java policy for the same if we don't want our private members to be reflected by other class. So let's have an example. We are actually setting the system's security manager as the new security manager. We are instantiating the new security manager. This is nothing but actually instantiating the default Java policy security policies and setting it to our particular system, and what it enables is, let's run the example again. See, the public member access is working fine, but we are having a access control exception issue when we are trying to access the private members. So what it is doing basically, it is actually setting the Java policy, and the first question arises in our mind is, where is the Java policy? So this is basically inside the JRE securities, and for example, this ID is using this particular JRE. This is in my C program files, Java JDK 1.6.0 underscore 45. So let's move to that folder. Now the Java policy is always inside the JRE. It's in JRE lib security, and here is the Java policy. So what it is doing is just instantiating this particular policy, or embedding this particular policy to our system application, and this will actually restrict the other classes to use reflection on our own class. Now we can actually use that these things, but we can override this Java policy according to our need if we want to use Java policy or system security manager. But in the other hand, we also want to use reflection. We have that provision by adding reflect permission for that. For example, let me show you. This is the code that needs to be used if we want to use Java policy. Along with that, we want to basically use reflection. We want the system to give permission for reflection. So but default Java policy don't allow reflection, but this code will basically allow reflection. So this is the basic of reflection, and hope you all actually have a good time. Okay, bye bye.